Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. We're going back to the Wolflands. We're going back to Castle Weasel, and things have been a little slow. That's okay. Sometimes these games are like a fine wine. If you let them breathe a little bit, if you just take a deep breath and let them come to you at their own pace. Don't try to control everything. Don't try to micromanage and write the story that you want to write. If you want to write a story, just go write a story. We want to play a little game. And our little game is, can we patch this castle up? Can we attract a whole bunch of little peasants to make a bunch of little peasant babies so that when our Lord of the Manor has little babies of his own, they'll have peasants. It's like a self-perpetuating system. And it works pretty good, barring outside factors. Here is the location of Castle Weasel on a 4-mile hex. This large red hex is 24 miles across. This is the immediate environs of Castle Weasel. As you can see, it's built kind of on this little bend in the stream. This is Watery Tart Pond. It flows down to Long Lake, which you can kind of see right down here off that hex. There are ogres here. We got to deal with those guys, and we finally have the muscle. They've been hanging out for too long. They've probably come up and they've checked out Castle Weasel. They've scoped it out from a lot of different directions, and we kind of turtled up. Just work on fixing this thing up, right? And as you recall from previous episodes, we finally got the gate, the wall, the ditch. Everything is fixed up as of the 25th. Now, I'm coming to you. I'm publishing this video on the 27th of February, 2025. We're going through things one day at a time. Every week, I sit down and I go through what happened in the previous week. What do I think is going to happen in this next week? Trying to keep it as close to one-to-one time as possible gives you a lot of incentive to keep playing the game. One of the things that modern-day Dungeons & Dragons players struggle with is motivation. Players are not motivated to find out what happens next in the DM's grand story. Just send me the script, bro. In a game like this, it's a solo game, you can play at your own pace. You can take monthly turns if you want. You can this is getting off of the beaten path. You've got this highway. You've got these safe paths to travel right here in the rules. And you're better off sticking onto those paths. But sometimes there's things outside of the beaten path. You need to go explore over there. And you have a lot more liberty to play this game than most people realize, even if you're doing everything you can to try to play it by the rules. And that's one of the things that we're demonstrating through this series of videos. Now, as I said in last week's video, it was raining when I filmed it, which means it's raining in the Wolflands for the whole time. So we had a little bit of a delay. I thought that our reinforcements were going to arrive on the 25th. They don't. They arrive on the 26th. All right, that's fine. That means on the 28th, we can send out some guys. Now, obviously, today is Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. And that means that we've only got a day or two to get some work in. So I'm going to send these guys out on the 28th. And then Sunday is the Lord's Day. So we have our friendly neighborhood cleric. And I should point out, I did find this. You can find a copy of this, johnmollison.com. If you go to, oh man, I sound like, I watched the most recent video from the guys at Little Wars TV. Good videos. They did a fantasy game. Normally they do history, but they did a fantasy game video. It was 30 minutes. Really, but man, it was like every 5 minutes they were like, by the way, time out. Let me break the action so I can tell you, make a commercial. You should go to our website. You should sign up for a Patreon. You should. So like, bro, just tell me who wins the siege of which one was it? The Helm Hammerhand? The Rohan? Anyway, if I start to do that, tell me down in the comments. Say stop with you go to johnmollison.com and there's a tab, Wargaming Resources, and you can download a copy of this for yourself. I also have a copy of this map. People ask this in the comments all the time. If you see that, you guys can tell. Just go to johnmollison.com. So here's what we got. We got Roger the Hammersteiner. He's our Lord of the Manor. Here's Deacon Harrison Hill. So he's our cleric. And he's actually, what did we say? He's cleric 1. And I got to update this still. Roger, as we said, is fighter. He's got to be 6th level fighter, right? So Roger is 6th level. Oh, that's right. Let me make that change right now. Captain Von Trapp is actually a 5th level fighter. He can command 100 guys. And he can command 5 lieutenants. At 2nd level, each of those lieutenants can command 20 guys of their own, meaning Captain Von Trapp can command 200 guys. Plus The lieutenants can command sergeants of their own, so I think that means there's another 20 per. So I think it's like 300 guys that Captain Von Trapp. But that means that Roger the Hammer Steiner must be a 6th level fighter, and Deacon Harrison Hill is his advisor. I don't know. Cleric 1 is probably fine. Maybe we make him Cleric 2 for a little bit of healing oomph. Now, a lot of guys have been complaining in the comments, hey, why haven't you sent your characters to go stomp on these ogres? You should be using your characters. You know your characters. What about your characters? To which I can only respond, please understand, I'm not playing a traditional game of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I am not interested in the personal lives and stories of a couple of characters with very funny voices. We don't do that here, okay? We're exploring some hexes, and we are leaders of men. I have a whole crew here. One of the great ironies of my life, I got promoted, and I am now a manager at work. I'm important. I've got people relying on me, and I really want to do right by them. I want to make money for the company, but I really want to do right by my subordinates. I want to be their champion in a way that doesn't typically happen in corporate America. And I just mean that as a manager, we don't often get told, remember, these people, you're responsible for them, and you should be helping them, and you help them, and that's good for the company. I think a lot of people, misunderstand the whole purpose of this thing. Anyway, brief real life rant over. I'm finding, no, it's not over. I take it back. I'm finding that the skills that I've developed by taking on the persona of a leader of men in Dungeons and Dragons have helped me. They parallel my growth in my professional life, and they help me think about, well, these people that I'm responsible for, am I going to send them into the jaws of certain death? No. In the corporate world, I'm not going to do that either. I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to give them all the resources they need to succeed. As I said, on the 26th, did I say that right? Sometimes I get these dates right. 40 Heavy Foot arrived, which means I now have a lot of guys to work with. I've got 20 Lightfoot. I've got 50 Heavy Foot. I've got 20 Archers. I've got no crossbowmen, but I do have 20 Medium Horse. And that means rather than sending out a balanced encounter and leaving these guys a 50-50 chance of getting squashed, 6 Ogres, 24 hit die. Of course, they have +4 hit points. Let's call it 30. 30 hit dice worth of monsters. I'm not sending out 30 hit dice worth of boys. I am instead going to send out, and I even wrote it down in my last episode, I'm going to send out 10 Lightfoot, 20 Heavyfoot, 10 Medium Horse, and 10 Archers. I'm sending out, run the numbers, 50, well, plus the horses is probably like another 10, right? I'm sending out 60. I'm sending out 2 to 1. But even better, when I send these guys out under the direction of one of my lieutenants, I don't want them to get hurt. I just want these ogres gone. Now, if these guys, remember when my 10 Heavy Foot got killed, it cost me, and again, I'll show you in my notes. I know I'm flipping around a lot. There's a lot of information to manage here. That's why they call me the manager. It cost me $2,100 to replace those guys. Well, if I lose 10 Heavy Foot, man, $2,100, that's a lot of money. If they actually go after my horses, because ogres find horse flesh really tasty, that's $7,300. So instead, I'm going to send my lieutenant out with 2 to 1 ratio and a fat sack of 500 gold. And I'm going to say, hey, ogres, do you parlay? Does anybody speak Ogre? I don't. Yeah, probably somebody somewhere. I don't know. Ogres, maybe we can communicate through like Ogreish sign language, right? Grug knows what money is. We're going to bribe these guys. I'm going to offer them terms. I'm going to say, look, I know you guys are broke. You're not in your lair. I'm going to pay you 500 gold to GTFO. Are they going to take us up on that? Well, I don't know. There's a couple of different ways to do this. If I was sitting across the table from a bunch of players, we would do the whole thing. Well, how are you going to communicate with these guys if you don't speak with them? And I would make them do lots of embarrassing things. I would role play the ogres scratching their head. Instead of doing that here, instead of turning the camera around and doing some second-rate thespian nonsense, I'm just going to say, this is what we're doing. This is the goal. Then let's find out what the reaction of those ogres is, which of course means turning our attention to the encounter table. We're going to roll percentile dice and find out what the reaction is. However, we're going to adjust this a little bit based on some factors we'll talk about shortly. Before I get into that, for those of you normal people, you can skip ahead for the next 30 seconds. For those of you speds that are watching this channel just looking for a cheap gotcha, let me point out the actual rule involved here. Some of you get a little too bound up. Upon encountering another party, the party with initiative can always attempt some form of communication. We are calling out as we go. We know where they're at. They see us coming. We blare the horns, and we're going to be fine. This can be friendly gesture, throwing down of arms, offering of treasure. Hey, that's us. Offering of treasure. I want to figure out what all of my... Okay, so we're really playing by the rules. Settle down. Now I need to take a look at my adjusted die score, but remember that this score is adjusted. Maybe you have to check the morale, okay? It says adjusting the score for charisma and applicable loyalty adjustment as if the creature were a henchman of the character speaking. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, you have to turn back a couple of pages to the morale section and of the morale of your henchman, and you got to run down the list of modifiers. It's not a D20 system, and it's not everything is +1 or +3. We're not looking for a single number that we're trying to beat. Instead, we have a really long laundry list of just all kinds of things that might affect whether or not these guys are willing to stick around or not. But I actually got to come over here first because I almost forgot to point out that when it comes to the morale, there's another set of modifiers that you got to look at, and that is this one right here, right? Faced by an obviously superior force, you have to check each round. Well, we're obviously superior. We've got a 2-to-1 advantage. If this does turn violent, they're going to be checking morale each turn. And we'll talk a little bit about how we can strategize to limit the damage to ourselves as well. Okay. If 25% of the party is eliminated, check it +5. Oh, well, wait a minute. We killed 2 of them. I don't know if that's really true. I don't know if that counts. And then there's a couple of others. Outnumbered or outclassed by 3 or more to 1. Well, that's not us. I thought there was one up here. Taking casualties, morale checks made, 25 leaders slain or desert. So we may give ourselves a little bit of bonus. We're at 2-to-1. Maybe I need to send another 30 guys out. We're just going to go whole hog. We're just going to throw all our chips into the center of the table. I could send 90 guys. We're only about a half a mile from we're less than a half a mile now that I think about it, from Castle Weasel. But if we run down the rest of these, what we find is the treasure is going to give us a 10% bump. Is it exceptional? I don't know. I mean, 1 gold piece will pay for a guy for a month. We're giving each of these ogres, there's 6 of them, like 20, 18 gold pieces. We're giving them like a year and a half salary. Although you maybe divide that by 4 because of their 4 hit dice. We're still giving them like 6 months salary to just, bugbear off. Or I should say ogre off. So we're at +10. Yeah, maybe that's a little generous. You can argue if you want to, but I'm not paying much attention. Associated group, 3 places removed. They are, right? So lawful evil to chaotic good. That's kind of us. That sounds like -20. So we're at -10. But because we are lawful good and they recognize that we are good for our word, we are going to be at a total +15 for that. So altogether, I think we're at about a +5 on this reaction roll. Then we look at the chart and you see neutral, uninterested, uncertain. That's at 55. Remember, we're at a total of +5. So let's roll the dice. And 87 becomes a friendly, immediate action. They say, yeah, give me the gold. We're gone. So the ogres are no longer our problem in just a nice, easy manner. But I do have to remember, I'm going to write down here 500 gold pieces to bribe ogres to go away. And where does that leave us on so we are now at 33,000 and 540 gold pieces. And I think that was money well spent. Ogres are gone. So the 6 ogres, I'm going to erase the letter A. And I'm going to drop that off. So then our guys come back and say, yeah, they're out of here. Good. I don't know if you can see it. The hexes here that are brown, those are the ones we've cleared. So then on Saturday, I'm going to send my guys out to do a quick loop of the pond here. This is Watery Tart Pond, named by one of our devoted listeners. And I love it when you guys offer suggestions for these names because it makes it ours, not yours. I have to roll for encounter checks, and I'm going to check just as we go along the pond. Now, any encounter checks we get at the pond are going to be water encounters. And as you can see, I've got did I go all the way around? Now that I look at it, I can't tell. Some of this stuff is kind of smudged. I think we need to explore this one, and this one. So I'm looking for a 1, no, and 1. So right over here, as I'm exploring this last hex on this side, so now I'm going to try to color it in like so. I still need to check these woods. That's why they're not colored in green. I know it's a little hard to read, but you'll see when I color them in green that we have explored. So right here, something interesting happens on Saturday afternoon, probably right near quitting time. Ain't that always the way? The underutilized and underappreciated underwater encounters in fresh water, less than 50 feet. I think this pond is maybe 40 feet at its deepest, darkest. What lives down there and what happens next is up to the dice. So we roll straight percentile. We get a 3-0, and this lake has giant frogs. Wonderful. How many giant frogs? I don't know, man. I wish there was some sort of manual, perhaps one filled with monsters, and from aerial servant to zombie, right? Here's our Dungeon Delver thing. I can't believe TSR Games stole this from Dungeon Delver. He's one of the guys. I don't know whether I should be plugging him or not. He hangs out with some rather unsavory characters online, but it's tabletop role playing. Unsavory characters it kind of comes with the territory, unfortunately. So where are we at now? I should probably have specified who all is going out on this mission because we're near the water body. I don't think we're going to send everybody out. I think this time we send 30 or 40 guys out. Let's send 10 archers, 10 lightfoot. The lightfoot will be our scouts. We got 20 heavyfoot, and then we've got 10 archers to help provide covering fire in case we have to ski-daddle, which may be the case because giant frogs are terrifying. I lost a fun halfling to the giant frogs outside the moat house in T1. I was down, and yeah, honestly, that's an adventure that's one of those modules that put me off modules for a good long while. So giant frogs, how many giant frogs live in the pond? And maybe, so it's 5 to 40. Gary trusts us to be able to do the math. Divide 40 by 5 and you get 8. Okay, 5d8. How many giant frogs are in the pond? 5, 11, 19, 27. Oh, my old stars and garters. I think we need to rename this pond, okay? I don't know that Watery Tart Pond is appropriate. B is, I say Watery Tart Pond, it's got 36 frogs. Giant frogs. And those are, by the way, we've encountered those before. If you take a look at there were giant toads, I guess, out in the I said giant toads. Yeah, our adventurers were up here near the Redditune when they encountered giant toads. I think we found the source of those giant toads down here. That's going to be a real problem for us. They're going to live in and around that giant pond. And for now, I'm just not going to deal with it. I know there's giant frogs in there, but they live in the giant pond. So that maybe, there you go. Maybe that explains why we didn't have any kind of a miller over here. Maybe people are smart enough. Maybe that's why the bridge is up here, because this does largely make our southeast flank. Of course, that means we're going to have to kind of go around to get there. And that's going to be it for the 27th, or did I say the 28th? No, that's for the 1st. March 2nd, we take a break. And then on March 3rd, we're right back to the work week, where our boys are going to go out with a really bad case of the Mondays. Although, come to think of it, we should probably figure out what happens when we say we encountered them. Because we are in the scrublands, we have to roll 6d4. 3s count as 2s, 4s count as 3s. This is our encounter distance. There's not going to be a lot. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 100 feet. All right, so we encounter all of these giant frogs 100 feet away. They have a movement of 6. Let's find out who is surprised and who is not. We are normally surprised on a 1 or a 2. I'm going to argue that as my Lightfoot are accustomed to broken terrain, they're used to looking for ambushes, they would be surprised with maybe that Ranger skill only on a 1 and 6. However, because these are giant frogs, only their little peepers are sticking up above the water. That means they surprise 1 extra, so that goes back to 2 and 6. The black die will be for the frogs. Nobody is surprised, but we are at 100 feet remove. And that means that the frogs, with their leaping movement of only 9 inches, we are 90 yards away. We're going to be able to get away. Like they can get to within 10, and then we're just like, no, don't even have time for this. And so we've explored all of this. So we've explored all the way around, and that is on March 1st. Then on March the 2nd, we'll send guys out, and they're going to explore the rest of the brown. I've already colored them in because we're going to explore them all. And I got to roll 7 times. There are 7 hexes, looking to see if I get any 1s in this run. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we do not. That means we've explored most of this first hex. This is a swamp up here. I got woods and I got woods. I'm going to come down. I want to explore these woods here first. The next day dawns, and actually I'm going to send my guys out across the bridge. I want to explore this hex first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's pretty good for a day's work now. I can't send my horsemen out this time, so it'll be 10. I'm going to send them all of my Lightfoot out. 20 Lightfoot, and they're going to be backed up by 10 archers. I don't want to send my Heavyfoot into the woods. I just don't think that's a smart idea. And then we'll just go 1, 2, 3. Well, we're going to start down here, and we're going to work our way back up. So, in other words, 1, 2, 3. Those are our first 3 die rolls. Looking for a 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're coming back down. 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, man, 7, and 8. So we've effectively explored these woods. And this is what I was talking about earlier. What I have been doing as I explore is color in the hexes 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7. So those are all explored, and then this is also explored. So now I know which woods are safe. There's no threats down here. This is where I'm getting all my lumber for the castle. I need to specify, that's a really important thing. I need to specify what my next works are. And I may not do that in this video. I may wait until next week to figure it out, and I may just retcon to decide. I think the big thing for Castle Weasel is getting a stone wall. We've been very lucky that we haven't been too hammered by bad guys just yet. So I think it's safe to say that we've dug a ditch, we've filled in these ponds, we've got this well here. There's a name for that. It's St. John's Well. So I need to sit down and just Photoshop up, and we're going to start laying in the foundation for this wall. We need to patch this wall too. And I think this wall is probably somewhere around 10 feet high. Once we get it built, we're going to build some catwalks, right? We've got our little, this is probably our stables. It says there's a little postern gate down here too. So probably our garden shed is right here in the back of the stables. And maybe we expand these stables a little bit further, but we can worry about that next week. For right now, I do have a little bit more exploration to do. I want to explore these woods too. And I'm saving the swamps for the end because those are just gnarly. And again, I'll start nearest to the castle and we'll work our way up around this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the 7 in this hex that we're exploring. 1, 2, 3. Does this have a number 1 on it? There it is. See, it has it. 4, 5, 6, and number 7. So once again, we spend another day, and our boys are earning their keep. All 40 of them. I love it. They're earning their keep for the keep. So I color in those woods, and maybe we have a reputation now. Maybe the bad guys are a little spooked, and they don't want anything to do with us. So those are, we're almost done, guys. We just have to explore the swamp. Now I'm going to say it's going to take a lot longer to explore the swamp. It's hard to move around. I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just do all 9 of these. And maybe we can only do 3 in a day because it's so hard. And we're going to call that number 10, okay? So maybe we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then we'll call it a week and we'll meet back next week. But I'm concerned because I think it will go up to the source of the stream, and we may wind up having to drain this. We may dig a little pond here for our mill. I'm not sure. But we're going to start with the headwaters that you see there. So there's something there right at the start on March 2nd, 3rd. So it's March 4th. We have our random encounter. And that random encounter, as I said, is going to be occurring in the swamp. So let me find that table. He uses the term marsh. It's a wetland. What do you want from me? We roll the percentile dice. We get an 86. And marsh is all the way over here on this end of the table. And if we zoom in, 86 says troll. We have trolls in the marsh. We've got 1 to 12 trolls. Who all is out there? Well, I'm not sending mounted. I'm not sending heavy foot. I'm going to send everybody else. That's going to be 20 lightfoot and 10 archers. Let's see what they go up against. 3 trolls. Well, 30 guys against 3 trolls. That's 18 hit dice. Maybe that's not too bad. So this is the troll swamp now, I guess. Are they in their lair? There is a 40% chance. 07. So we got trolls in their lair, which means we may have treasure type D. We might make some money on this one, but our guys want to retreat as fast as possible. Once again, need to find out what the encounter distance is before I go any further. And in a marsh, we roll, again, it's 6d4, but we subtract 1 from all 2s, 3s, and 4s. So encounter distance is going to be 10. Let's see, so minus 1 is going to be 30, 60, 70, 100, and my last die roll, 110 feet. Trolls are not very fast, are they? 110 feet for our starting rank. What's the movement on these guys? 110 feet. They're only 120 feet away. Once again, we need to check for surprise. And the bad guys, black hats, are surprised. We're not. We retreat. We don't want to have anything to do with these guys. We don't have any fire. We don't have any acid. We're going to need to recoup. We're going to have to back off. Now, the problem that this presents us from a strategic standpoint is that we're trying to explore this entire hex. And unfortunately, with these trolls in the way, because they appeared in that first hex, I can't explore the rest of this marsh until I deal with these guys. They're right here. They're upstream, which is pretty gross. So I'm going to change this. A equals 3 trolls. And this sounds like an excellent job for an adventuring party. But remember, I wrote a little note down here just to remind myself where we're at on my order of business. Where'd it go? Here's what I was looking for. I put a little note here. Supply outbound. Remember, they left on Monday. They outbound on, we're going to give them a few days of rest. So they're outbound on 3/3, meaning they're not going to get back to town until the 10th of the month. They're not going to get back to us until the 17th. And they got to turn around and go back. So until April, we're not going to be able to rely on that 40% chance of any adventurers coming to meet us. We've got about 5 or 6 weeks here where we're on our own, and we need to figure out how we're going to deal with these trolls. That's the making of another skirmish game that we can throw down on the tabletop. And, maybe we even turn that over to some of our friends and say, hey, if you had 30 heavy foot, 10 archers, 10 light foot, that gives you 50 hit dice worth of guys going up against 3 trolls. How would you do that? You want to run that battle for me? I might ask a friend to do that. They can run that battle, come back and report to me what the casualties are, and I'll accept the results. In fact, if you do it and you post your results somewhere, that'll be the official results for this campaign. Meanwhile, we also have the 36 giant frogs. The giant frogs are a little different because they're not quite as smart. We may be able to get away with putting together a little scenario where we send our 20 archers out behind 20 heavy foot, and they can just kind of sweep the edge of the swamp. pincushion some of these frogs, cut their numbers down considerably. Maybe we can find a wizard who needs frog's breath, frog's eyes, giant frog gut, and he will be more than happy to take these things off our hands for us. Or maybe we can turn a little bit of a profit on those. I will point out that the treasure type D for the trolls ain't to be sneezed at. Although, the way the dice work, maybe it is, because there's a lot of percentages in here. So we take a look. We've got a 10% chance of copper, right? 50% chance of 1 to 6,000 gold. This is the big money. We really want to do that ourselves. If we can kill the trolls on our own, we got a 50% chance of getting that. Plus, we have a 30% chance of gems, 25% chance of jewelry. These are the big ticket items right here. These could all come up bupkis, and all we did was lose a bunch of guys for no money. Them's the breaks. Those are the dice. That's the adventure. Sometimes you can do everything right, and there's just no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Doesn't matter how many leprechauns you chase. It's just the luck of the die. It's the luck of life, and kind of learning how to deal with those setbacks is what we experience here. So, I'm done for today. I got to get back to doing some stuff. I thank you guys for coming along for the ride. I'm looking forward to next week. We'll talk about the additional upgrades to Castle Weasel. Maybe we recruit some additional guys. We can send a fast rider maybe to catch up to our caravan. We could maybe, if we wanted a chance for adventure, say, hey, there's a 10% chance that our convoy gets trashed, and we roll the dice and look at that. See, I'm glad I didn't say that, because having a trashed convoy would really complicate our lives. I gotta learn. I gotta know better than to do that. It was a hypothetical. Don't hate me. Or maybe hate me down in the comments, because the algorithm loves it when you hate me. I don't. I'm an emotional guy. I like being loved. Maybe that's why I like pretending I am a leader of men, and maybe that's why I like taking care of people. But, whatever. Maybe it's because it's my Christian duty. Till next time, I'm praying for you.